Hey, what's up everyone? Alex here, back with the 108th opening that I'd like to share with you, which is the Checkboarding 2 opening. So essentially, it's very similar to the previous episode where we were covering on Pyramid Checkerboarding Peasant opening. So let's just quickly run through the sequence starting with F5 and the typical run through to the diagonal opening, crossback, and then basically the snake opening is where it begins. So this is the usual sequence, and typically the usual initial checkerboarding opening would follow by c6, followed by c5, and then followed by d3. So that forms the usual checkerboarding opening. But with checkerboarding 2 opening, you're basically reaching out for the diagonal cut instead of the horizontal cut over here to c4. And of course, with c4, if you're playing against maybe a novice player who doesn't really know the book, or somebody who just follows general guidelines about group small inside and centralizing, there's a high chance that white would consider c5 as the response. So with c5 being played, you then cross back over here to d3 and form like a checkerboarding 2 opening. So similar to checkerboarding 1, checkerboarding 2 opening is basically about capturing key horizontals and diagonals over here. So over here you can see black is essentially controlling this kind of fourth row over here between c4 to e4, and there isn't a simple way for white to kind of cut through and regroup its 3 or 4 segregated disks. And at the same time over here, black is also controlling the 6th row between d6 to e6. And again, over here, white doesn't have like a quick, nice way to kind of regroup and cut into the center. So it does provide a bit of a surprise factor by playing the checkerboarding shape. I think if you play against a less seasoned player, that player would kind of be surprised and maybe even taken aback and probably force some errors out of him, because I think c7, it's probably not a move that one would usually prefer. You might prefer to play something like g5 perhaps. That seems to be less favorable. So basically checkerboarding gives you a chance to kind of surprise your opponent, and at the same time usually checkerboarding openings result in very easy response. So for example, if white were to go for this one, all black has to do is just regroup into the center, and if white goes for g5, you can just extend the checkerboard over here in the vertical way as well, with the 6th row and the 4th row in control, with the f column in control as well. And this kind of mini diagonal between f3 and c6 is also in control. And of course, over here, another option would just simply to be regrouping into the center of the board and then basically controlling again. So it's kind of like a semi checkerboarding extension, with black controlling the same 6th row, 4th row, and this mini diagonal between f3 and c3. So I think with checkerboarding, it does tend to surprise your opponent a little bit. If your opponent is less seasoned, it's probably a lot easier to kind of catch your opponent off guard with such openings. So yeah, definitely use this opening to your advantage, and if the checkerboarding kind of feature works for you, then great. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. So yeah, give me a quick thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for joining me in this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.